Oh my goodness, it's time for another Big Jim's Records podcast. Ooh! We have our very first special guest on. How else could I start a podcast with a guest and not have this fellow, Mr. Joey Intervallo, the legendary Joey I. Welcome, Joey.
It's an honor. It's definitely an honor.
How are things down in is it Brooklyn or Queens that you live in?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. How are things down there?
Living the dream, baby. Living the dream.
Can't ask for more than that. Me and Joey go way back. We first met at I walked into Rock and Rex in Yonkers, and this guy was hanging around there, and he says, "Oh, I work here now." And I said, "Oh, okay." And that just started off a oh my goodness, quite a history there. Quite a history. Doing a lot of stuff, man. Doing a lot of stuff. Do you remember those days? You remember the Rock and Rex days?
Oh, absolutely. But I remember you were working there before I was. And I talked to Rich McLaughlin, and he was like, yeah, Jim Gibson works there. Because I said, oh, there's a new record store open. He goes, yeah, that's Tony's place. Jim Gibson works there. And I was like, who's Jim Gibson? He's like, he owns Noiseville Records, and he's got a band called Unholy Swill, and he plays all the instruments himself. And I was like, what? Like I'd never heard anything like that before, that someone could have their own label with their own band and play all the instruments himself. Like, it didn't make any sense to me. And I remember walking in and saying, oh yeah, Richie, I'm friends with Richie. You know, he told me you have a band, and you were like, yeah, it's Unholy Swill, and you had the record on the wall. And I was like, oh, I would like to buy that record. And you were like, you could have it. You know? And then that started a long relationship of us giving records to each other.
That's right. Right.
And I went home and put it on, and I had never heard anything like it was the Tapeworm single. And I went home and I put it on, and I was like, I'd never heard anything like that. And I was like, this is either the worst thing I ever heard in my life, or it's absolutely genius. You know, it's that classic Spinal Tap, that fine line between clever and stupid, you know. And, you know, of course I decided it was genius, and I was on board 100%. You know?
Well, I had you fooled early on. It just Unholy Swill was just, it started off as a joke. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I'm there playing the drum machine like out of beat, and I can't figure it out correctly. But it was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. And then you came on, and you would play guitar in Unholy Swill too. You and Rich.
Yeah, I remember you would come into the store one day. We'd been hanging out for a little bit by this point, and you came into the store and you said, I just got an offer to play a show in Dallas, Texas, but I don't have a band. And I was like, you know, of course I seized the opportunity. I was like, well, I'll be in your band. And you were like, okay, fine. And then we sat there, we talked about it a little bit. You were like, what are you going to play? I said, I'll play guitar. And you're like, okay, we need a drummer. And we said, well, the next person who walks through that door will be the drummer. And the next person who walked through the door was Rich McLaughlin.
Wow.
And he walked through the door, and you said, do you want to play drums in Unholy Swill? And he said, yes. And I said, do you know how to play drums? And he said, no.
You got the job, buddy boy. You won.
Stop it.
I remember he bought this drum pad thing, this electronic drum thing, and it was just so silly watching. Yeah, just watching someone sitting there playing this drum machine really badly during the show, and watching us play badly too. So that was a lot of fun.
Carl Picaro used to say that Rich played with intense, you know, concentration, just looking down at that octapad like this.
Who knows?
So sounded fantastic.
Hey, it worked. I don't know how it worked, but it worked.
Yeah.
You know, and then that trip to Dallas, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That bus ride was painful.
I think I was like 17.
Yeah.
when we took that trip.
Well, I remember I was going to rent a car, and I was under 21, so I couldn't rent a car. and Rich was under 21, and you were, and I was like, oh Jesus, I can't rent the car, so how are we going to get there? And I was like, well, I'm not going to fly down there with the gear, and just something said, oh, Greyhound bus. Little did I know, 72 hours later, each way.
That was definitely torturous, that bus ride. Absolutely.
You know, getting down to Dallas at 3 a.m, it's 102 outside, and John Lambert meeting us at the bus station. And I remember him giving me the greatest advice I ever got when it comes to dealing with heat. We get off the bus and we're getting all the stuff. He says, slow down. You're on New York time. Get on Texas time. Slow down. Relax. It'll get done. Don't worry about it. And it was magic since then. And of course, at that show, no one paid attention to us. No one liked us. Well, no one was there. But they liked it when you did the Jeffersons theme. That got us the biggest response from the crowd. Joey saves the day.
Well, you play something people are familiar with. All of a sudden, they pay attention to you. But,
and they're like, oh,
I thought we got good reviews. They mentioned us in the local press. They mentioned us a lot. And
on the newspaper article for the whole festival, they had a picture of us right up. We were that they used. So I mean, it was like, wow, you didn't take Daniel Johnston's photo. You put Holy Swill.
No. And I corresponded with a few bands that I met there after the fact, and they all said the same thing. They were all like, oh, you guys were really special. You were, really different, and you really stood out amongst all those people, But,
Unholy Swill should stand out. There's nothing like There was nothing like Unholy Swill, but.
Well, we never sounded like, the record sounded like one thing, but whenever we played live, it sounded totally different because we either had like borrowed equipment. You really couldn't recreate the sound of the four-track recording that you were doing to recreate and whatever. But so it was kind of like two different bands. There was the records, and then there was like the live show, and there was like different stuff, Because we could pull off certain things live that we couldn't do on record, and vice versa.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true. Like running an entire album through a distortion pedal twice. Before anyone hears. You can't do that live.
You can't recreate that.
You can't do that live. But we did it with the Onion Town as a Place to Be album. That was it. We recorded that whole album in one evening in the basement of Rock and Rex. That was crazy. That was crazy. And then we did the Hell Goats also at Rock and Rex. We recorded, but that was
first time we ever played together.
What's that?
It was you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay. What was the first time we ever played together? You said it was the first time we played together. What was that?
When we recorded that record, it was the first time we played together.
Really?
Yeah. We had never rehearsed before anything.
No.
Yeah. We had just gotten together that night, and that was it.
Yeah, I remember writing the lyrics like an hour before meeting you guys there, and that was it. I don't even think I wrote the music. I think we did the music there, but the lyrics I'd written, beforehand. So, not that I think
my memory of it was we were recording on 4-track, and you had the vocal mic plugged directly into the machine, so we couldn't hear what you were saying anyway. And you would show us the song. You'd be like, okay, this song goes like this, and you would show us, just one riff, and then we would just bash away at it, and then you were singing into the 4-track live as we were doing it. So we had no idea what it sounded like until I heard the record. I didn't know what
we didn't have a PA system for the vocals, so that's why.
No, it went right into. We had one mic in front of my amp, one mic in front of your amp, one mic in front of the drums, and the vocal was plugged right. The vocal mic was plugged right into the machine. And I think there was one headphones. So you were the one guy wearing headphones, and the rest was just winging it. So how it how it came out at all is amazing. But I remember like not having any idea what it sounded like until I got the test pressing. It was like, oh, that's what he was saying. Wild.
Well, yeah, there was some fun. I remember John Peel sending me a postcard telling me that he couldn't play the entire album on his show. So what he did is for 12 shows in a row, he would play one song from the album. And he would tell people, okay, get your tape recorders out because you're not going to be able to find this album anywhere. To record it now.
Well, God bless him.
Yeah, he was great, man. I miss that guy sorely. He was tremendous. Just the stories he had to tell. But that and I remember also the guy who did the mastering down at Nashville Records called me up like 3 years later. And he says, This is Jim Gibson from Noiseville. I said, yeah. He says, you were the ones that did that Unholy Swill, Onion Town is a Place to Be album? I said, yeah. He says, I don't know how I was ever able to master that album. I don't know how I was able to master that album. He says, I got the tape and I was going to send it back and said, no, it can't be mastered. It's too loud. It's just too much, And he says, and I tried it and it worked. And he says, whenever I have engineer friends come over, I always pull that album out still and play it for them and say, listen to this. Listen to this. I mastered this. I got this to work.
Didn't when Norpost did the live album, didn't it break the mastering equipment? That's what I heard.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised,
Yeah.
I don't remember what plant he used for that one, but yeah, a lot of that stuff's kind of a blur to me. I don't remember a hell of a lot, but maybe that's better.
And listen, it was always well reviewed. Forced Exposure, Maximum Rock and Roll, Your Flesh. I used to save the reviews, and they would always say, like, this is like the wildest, craziest stuff. It was always, they would say how awful it was, but always in a very good way. And, it always got, 4-star review, 3-star reviews. People liked it, I don't know why, but I guess because it was so different.
Well, I at the time the warning labels were really big on records. That was when that started. And I said, well, if I'm going to do an album, I got to have a warning label that says, warning, this record will kill you. So I have to make a record that is likely to kill someone. So I think we probably got as close as you could get to oral murder, with the Unholy Swill.
And that was, the Onion Town was the first record I was on. So, like, being a music guy and being a big record collector, I was like, oh, my first record. And I was so proud, but, like, I couldn't play for my parents and say, here, you want to hear what I've been up to? You know what I mean? Like, they would have just been like, what are you thinking? So
I never played it.
It was kind of it's like a secret.
Nah, couldn't do that. Actually, I think I may have played one song from my mom, maybe, but she just was baffled from the came on. I was like,
it is baffling.
What is this? A lot of fun. We did a lot of record shows together too. You were because I was selling at record shows, selling records to try to fund the label and everything over the years, and so we did a lot of crazy music festivals, going away for a weekend. Me, you, sometimes Franco would be there, and
we crisscrossed the country.
Yeah, we did all sorts of crazy things. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's still a lot of record shows now, but we, just have to travel to go do them is pointless at this point. There's obviously now we're in the COVID thing, but when we're at normal levels, there's a record show every weekend in Brooklyn.
Oh,
and so but back then you had to there was big shows at certain every year that you knew in November you were going to Philly, in August you were going to Dallas, and whatever month it was a yearly thing. So, you go, I remember going to the, what was it, WYSP show in Philly. We did a bunch of times. Great record show. And these shows would be 3 days, FM all the time. We do FMU.
Oh, you're breaking
We
up a little bit.
do YSP. We went out to the Rock Hall of Fame. We
The Hall of Fame, yeah.
I think you're frozen. I think you're frozen.
Yeah, no, I think you froze
There
up.
you are.
You're coming out like ding dong dong ding ding. That's all I heard, you know. And then I hear like, Hall of Fame. Oh yeah. You're breaking up. You're frozen there.
Oh.
You still there? Zoom, fix your shit. Come on. What the hell?
Is that any better?
We're getting there. We'll give it a second or two.
How about now? I'm full Wi-Fi here.
Your picture's frozen, but you sound okay. So, wait, there you
Can
go.
you
You're
see
back.
me now?
There you go. You're back. All right. Hi, Joey.
All right. What was the last thing I said?
We were talking about record shows. You talk about the YSP show and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and
Yeah, we did. We used to do FMU. We used to do WYSP. We did Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We did Beetle Fests in Chicago and Jersey. We did a lot of shows out in Jersey, actually.
yeah. Well, Jersey was always a big show, big state for record shows. That's for sure.
Uh,
Oh, we're freezing up again here. But we'll have a 45-minute show with 30 minutes of freezing, so that's all right. But let's talk some music. What because you've had a broad range of tastes. You've listened to a lot of different stuff over the years. I know that you were really heavy into Nick Cave for a long time. You know, the Who and the Beatles and what you know, and then Genesis and King Crimson. What are you listening to these days that's really rocking your boat?
I would. Here's the new Nick Cave, Ghosteen. I do not like this record. I don't like it. Not yet. I will like it eventually, because that's what happens with records like this. It takes me a long time to get into it, and then I need to see it live. And once I see it live, I will absolutely love this record. But I'm telling you right now, I do not like it. Okay? It's very ambient. There's no band on it. It's basically just Nick Cave and Warren Ellis doing stuff together. It's like an ambient record. Not a lot of melody to it to Nick Cave, but ghosty, right?
But he's always doing something different. You know, he doesn't keep you. Oh, of course, the Hot Rat Session on vinyl, something I do want to get myself.
No, this is the CD.
Oh, that's a CD.
This is the CD box. Yeah, there's no U.S. vinyl. There might be a bootleg vinyl coming out somewhere in Europe, but it's too many records. There'll probably be like a 10 LP set because this is like 6 CDs. Amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing. And let me tell you, I always thought that Frank had everything planned out in his head, and he would go in with his session. This is basically session guys, and he would have everything written out, and everyone would perform it till they got it right, and that was it. This dispels that myth. He is working on stuff the entire time. And you know that the Peaches and Regalia, that opening drum figure, that classic, you know, everybody, as soon as you hear that, it takes him 10 takes to get there. You know, first they start off cold. Then he's telling the drummer, why don't you try playing a fill there? Play it faster. Play it like this, play it like that. And then like you listen to it, you're like, that's not it. That's not it. Oh, that's it. You know, and so just the working process of that, what a treasure trove. Definitely worth getting. This I just put on the other day, and it's nuts. Don Ellis, live at the Fillmore. Don Ellis is a jazz trombone. It is like regular big band swing, and then a lot of it is like very experimental. He's putting trombones through synthesizers. There's a version of Hey Jude on here that does not sound anything like Hey Jude. And Ralph Humphrey plays drums on this. who played with Frank Zappa after this.
Ah.
So definitely check out Don Ellis.
I
Also,
have yet to check out anything Don Ellis ever, so that's
check
something.
him out. People don't know about him. Check him out. This guy, this is a CD. This is Johnny Sanson. He's from Louisiana, down in the bayou. He plays harmonica and accordion and guitar, swamp, blues, really good stuff. This one's called Once You Get Started. It's a couple of years old. He's got a couple of records out. But if you get a chance, anything by Johnny Sanson, really swamp, blues, distorted harmonica. He's a real like old guy. He's got long gray hair. He's got like a baritone voice, but good stuff. Johnny Sanson.
You got into a real.
That's on the music front. But what's more important is what I'm reading.
Oh.
What's that?
You got into a real New Orleans groove there for a little while.
Oh yeah. I really got into New Orleans stuff, and then I dug in deep, and now I'm kind of crawling my way out of it. but you know, you got to check that out. But this year,
oh my God,
this is a few years old, but I just got it. This is Mark Lewishon's All These Years, the Beatles Biography.
oh,
It's part of a trilogy, right? So this is the first installment, and this is the special edition. You can get the regular 1-volume edition. This is the special edition, 2 volumes. Look at this. This ends in 1962.
you got to be kidding me.
This ends New Year's Eve, 1962.
What are they? What are you like write about? Like what they had for lunch that day? What the hell could you write about?
It starts with the McCartneys and the Lennons coming over from Ireland, right? It starts like 3 generations back. I mean, it doesn't dwell on it, but you want to know all about the Cavern. You want to know all about the Hamburg years. And this is dispelling a lot of myths. You want to know how they really got signed to EMI? It's not what you think. It's not what you've been told.
Tell us, pray tell.
Well, what's the story, right? Brian Epstein brings the Decca demo tape to HMV, and they tell him, oh, go see George Martin. And George Martin hears the tape and says, oh, all right, I'll give him a try. And he tries them out, and he doesn't like Pete Best. And they bring in and they do Love Me Do and blah, 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 and then the rest is history, right? Didn't happen like that. George Martin brings his tape into HMV. HMV says, oh, we have a record cutting. You can make an acetate upstairs. He goes upstairs to cut an acetate from some of the songs from the Decca tape, right? The guy who's cutting the lacquer says, oh, you should go see these publishing. There's a publishing company that's also in the same building. Those 2 guys agree for a publishing deal. And then they're buddy-buddy with the president of EMI. They say, we just signed these guys to a publishing deal. We need you to cut a record. They were signed already before George Martin even heard of them.
Wow.
He was assigned to record the Beatles. When they go in to cut their first session, that's not an audition. They're already signed. They're in there to make a record.
Wow. Well,
so this
that's the way the music business works. Is your publisher is actually the one that does most of the deals for you.
So those publishers had the rights to Love Me Do and one other song for 2 songs, and that's really why that came to be. That first single. Yeah. So dispels a lot of myths. There's a lot of other stuff in there, but it's definitely worth checking out. And also check out Discorporate. Is Frank Zappa in the studio 1966 to 1967. This is the recordings of Absolutely Free, Lumpy Gravy, and We're Only in It for the Money. This is kind of like a mini sessions book. It's written by this guy, Scott Parker, who wrote a lot of Zappa books. Lot of great information in here. A lot of great pictures of acetates and test pressings and stuff.
So why is the Capitol label on the cover?
Right, because Lumpy Gravy was going to come out on Capitol Records.
Oh.
Right? So Capitol had signed Frank Zappa to do a solo record, right? Thinking it would be because he was signed to MGM in the Mothers of Invention.
Yeah.
But Capitol said, "Oh, we'll sign you as a solo artist," right? Which, listen, they should have known better. It wasn't gonna fly, right? So Frank recorded Lumpy Gravy for Capitol Records. Capitol made slicks. They made test pressings, and it actually came out on 4-track tape. There's
Wow.
a 4-track tape of the Capitol version of Lumpy Gravy. It's probably the rarest Frank Zappa item ever. So
Wow.
yeah, but then of course, as soon as MGM heard about it, they said, "You can't sign. He's our artist." And so Lumpy Gravy ended up a totally different mix coming out on MGM. But yeah, check out the Scorporate. Good stuff.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So I
Yeah.
pulled out a lot of stuff. I pulled out since you were. I watched your last couple of podcasts. And you were talking about collecting different labels, different covers, and stuff.
Yeah.
So
See what else you
you want
got?
to tiptoe through the Genesis catalog.
Oh boy, yeah.
So the Genesis first album, they don't own it, right? It was recorded by a guy named Jonathan King, who was a producer, and he licensed it to Decca, right? So he's, to this day, he still owns it. So it comes out every couple of years. You know, he licensed it to somebody for 2 years. They put it out. 2 years is up. He licensed it to somebody else. And it's been going on that way since 1968,
Yeah.
69. So this is just, there's so many. This is kind of like the original album cover. This is actually a recent Black Friday issue.
Hmm.
They're still putting it out. This is
Yeah.
from 2 years ago, right? So you can get it with this cover. You can get it with this cover.
Yeah, had that one.
You can get it with this cover, right?
I
These
that
two are
one.
the same. You can get it with this cover.
I think I
You
still
can get
have
it with this cover,
Yeah, I got that one.
right?
I had it.
And of course, the famous London one, right?
Yeah. Wow. You don't have a first printing from England though of that album. What's up, Joe? What's up with that, Joey? Got to bust out the wallet and pay the big bucks for that one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pay $2,000 for it. You know, if I find one for $200, I'll buy it. But you know, that's an overlooked record, by the way. You know, check it out. It's a very good album.
Believe it or not,
It's kind of,
it feels pretty quick.
you know, 60s folky pseudo psych. Yeah, it's a good record. Then their second album comes out, and it comes out on Charisma in the UK, but in America, for some reason, it comes out on the Impulse label, which is a jazz label, right? So this is when Impulse it gets distributed through ABC, right? So you have that. Then there's the promo of that, right?
Oh, nice.
Then that's the ABC. So first it's on Impulse, then it goes to ABC promo, ABC stock, right? And then eventually it ends up on MCA. So those are like, and then this is just a Canadian MCA.
MCA bought ABC. So
They did. That's why I figured it must have been like that. And just to round out the end of, yeah.
Oh, my
And
favorite.
around, I'll end with some nursery crime. So you have the small Hatter label and the large Hatter label, right? So let's show the difference here, right? See how the Hatter is small and above the center hole, right? And here the Hatter is very large, right?
The whole side.
Large, so small Hatters come out first.
Oh, really? I thought it was the big Hatter.
Small Hatters come out first. Then the Charisma Pink label.
Big scroll label.
Right. Then the large Hatters. Because what happens is between this and this, they change distributors. This is B&D and this is Buddha.
Yeah.
So kind of on the interim, they had these from England, these pink labels left over. So they send them over before it gets switched over to Buddha. Right. So, and just to show some cool stuff, here's a Canadian on Electra.
On Electra, wow. That's weird.
From Canada.
That's
and Here's from Germany
Yeah.
on Philips.
Philips
Right.
was like the label.
And then this, they'll take anybody.
Yeah, and they did take
This
it.
is an English scroll.
Nice. Very nice.
And this I'll just show. This is actually an Israeli copy. This is from Israel,
Wow.
right? Where you have your Hebrew writing down there in the bottom.
Yep. That's pretty.
So that, I mean, and I can go on and on with all their albums. I try to collect every label variation that I can. You know, I'm just a completist when there's certain bands that I just collect every variation I can. I'm Genesis, Nick Cave, I collect all his albums. Black Crowes, I got some great Crows stuff. Let me show you this because this just popped up.
Ooh,
This,
the lines.
yeah, this is supposed to come out on Record Store Day. That just keeps getting pushed back and back. So these kind of showed up on eBay, and they're on a beautiful pink vinyl,
Oh, nice.
but it's a bootleg.
Really?
It's a total bootleg. And I've seen them for $40, $50, $60. I paid $50 for it simply as a placeholder until I can get the real one.
Yeah.
Because I waited this long. So,
Wow.
this is cool. This is the Lost Crow sessions, right? They recorded 2 albums that never came out, and eventually they came out in this beautiful triple vinyl set with a nice accordion.
Oh, nice.
Cover, yeah, and it's this beautiful.
Now, what label put that out?
They have their own label called Broken Arrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's on this beautiful orange splatter. But the really cool thing is, this side, it's orange with a lot of green in it, but the same record, you flip it over,
Wow.
and it's mostly green with a little orange in it. So I really kind of like that. It's kind of like different colors on both sides of the same record.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, these pressing plans are getting real fancy with their colored vinyl blendings.
So this was limited to 1,000 copies. This is number 427. And it's selling for about $275 on eBay. I bought it when it came out for $60.
Yeah.
And I'll just show real quick. This is Before the Frost Until the Freeze. This is the first pressing on this beautiful blue and white swirl vinyl.
Yeah.
Now they pressed this 4 times, maybe 5 now, right? This was the first. Then they pressed it where one record is green and one is white. Then they pressed it where one is white and one is blue. There's a black vinyl, and now they just reissued it again on black vinyl. So you could pick a black vinyl up now for probably like about $40. But something like this, I think I probably spent a little under $100 on it, but I've seen it as much as $250.
Yeah.
So yeah, their records are pretty hot right now.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that 12-inch you had. I'm going to need that 12-inch promo. I'm jealous again. You showed the last one.
Oh, yeah.
Here's some Beetle Imports.
Oh, yeah.
Barcelona. Argentina.
Argentina?
Germany.
Oh, very nice.
France.
Oh, very nice. What color label is that on?
This is the orange and black label.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's an early issue.
Yeah. This is one of my favorites. I love this cover. I really do. I mean, it's kind of common. You see it around, but it's always worth picking up. I mean,
it's true.
What a cover,
too. Because
beautiful, right?
The U.S. version was not true stereo, the album. So the German issue, that's true stereo. So that's why people.
And since we're here, we'll show
Oh, the butchers.
My butcher's my second state and the third state. This is the second state with some paste over cover. I don't know if you can see Ringo's frock in there. It's probably hard to see on here, but it's there. Trust me.
Uh-huh.
And here's one that a butcher that's been butchered.
Yeah. I've had a few of those in here.
Yeah, but still worth having.
Sure.
And this is cool. It's signed by Pete Best. I got it signed at a Beatle Fest.
Yay.
Actually on it. And what Beatle collection is complete without the Beatle Barkers?
Yeah, gotta have the Barkers. Gotta have the Barkers in there.
Yeah. And just to show off, I'm going to show my signed copy of Lark's Tongues and Aspects, signed by Robert Fripp, Bill Bruford, John Wetton, and David Cross.
Wow.
This was a real get. They had put out a live CD of that band, that tour. And so they did a signing at Tower Records in Lincoln Center. And they would only sign the CD. And they told you, if you have a vinyl record, after you get your CD signed, go to the end of the line. And if we get to you, we get to you. So I had my CD signed. I went to the end of the line, and I was about 3 or 4 people from getting it signed. They said, that's it. No more, no more. And I said, wait. And I held up my CD, which was already signed. I said, they didn't sign my CD yet. And he said, okay, go ahead through. And I gave him the record, and they signed it. So this was a real get. So yeah, it's one of my prized possessions. I've been listening to a lot of Crimson lately, going back through their catalog. So much stuff there. It's just incredible.
And they've already rescheduling some shows for the summer tour.
Yeah, they were going to play at Forest Hills, and I ended up, I didn't buy tickets because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And sure enough, the whole thing is going to get postponed. But I'm excited I saw them at Radio City back in September, and it was probably the best show I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen everybody. I mean, literally, I've seen everybody. And it sounded amazing. They played music from their entire catalog.
Yeah.
3 drummers in the front of the stage. It was just a night of the most amazing music I'd ever heard. And it really kick-started. I had to go back now and get everything that I don't have, I just ordered a copy of Earthbound, a record I never owned, because everyone said, oh, it sounds horrible, don't get it. I'm like, no, I need it. I need to get everything.
You gotta have the complete collection,
Yeah. Some of this, the box sets they put out, I mean, they're expensive, but they just are full of. The Starless box set is like 27 CDs. It's like every night of the tour. It's amazing, and that's mostly improvised music, So
Yeah.
you're gonna hear different stuff on every disc. So got my eyes out for that one.
Sure. Well, if anyone out there in podcast land has a copy, Joey wants it, so you can email us at the show here. We'll put you two together. What else are you looking for? What other kind of stuff are you looking for lately?
What am I looking for specifically? I'm always looking for who I always collect: Beatles, Zappa, Who, and progressive rock. I like all that stuff. Genesis, always looking for Genesis 45s. If I can find them at an affordable price.
Yeah.
That's the key, though. Listen, I could get anything if I want to pay thousands of dollars for it. Just got to be practical. Always looking for that kind of
endless
stuff.
amounts of
I don't
get it, but most people don't have endless amounts of money.
Yeah. I don't collect punk rock anymore. I used to collect a lot of punk and hardcore, and I don't. It's not where I'm at right now.
Let me tell you something. That is a very common thing. Most of the punks that come into the store, they're buying the Who. They're buying records that they didn't pay attention to earlier on, and that's what's selling. They don't want more punk rock. They've had enough. So it's I think punk is more. You got to be angrier, and then it means something to you. Whereas metal, the metal, they listen to metal, they listen to it forever.
Yeah. Metalheads are the most loyal and coolest, you know, collectors, because they love all kinds of metal. I know guys, they'll buy Poison and they'll buy Mortician in the same thing, you know, as long as it's metal, it all falls under the same umbrella,
Sure.
you know. But like, I remember punk record bands you never heard of, definitely a rare record, but you listen to it once, oh, that was great, and then what? You know, there's no history with the band. They didn't have a career, you know, so what is there to do after that? You got the one record, great. Now you got to sell it.
Yeah. Oh, that's what a lot of them end up doing. They just sell it,
Yeah.
sell it to another collector slash dealer, and they sell it to another dealer slash collector, and it just goes around and around till everyone gets it. You know, that seems to be the fate of punk rock, unfortunately.
As my man Anthony DiGiulio used to say, what are record shows but one flaming groovy record going from table to table to table to table?
But see, that would be enjoyable, you know, because the Flaming Groovies, I like
Yeah.
that. You know? And their early records are not easy
Yeah,
to,
but right,
but I understand.
but you get his point. You know what I mean? It was, you know, like we used to go when we would go to Beatle Fest, and it would like the hot record would be whatever it was on that particular year. The hot record was Beatles versus Four Seasons, or the Shell cover, the Help Shell cover, and someone would have it, and then another dealer would buy it and he would put it up, and another dealer would buy it and he would put it up. By the time the show opened, it had already changed hands 3 times,
Yep.
and then 2 years later, you could get that same record for half the price he was trying to sell it the first time. So it's just like, you know, you got to watch.
That does happen. That certainly does happen. So what have you listened to lately that you were disappointed in? That you didn't think, I mean, the Nick Cave, you said, okay, it's got to grow on you. So we're not going to count that. But what have you heard lately that you were expecting to be really good and it just missed? Anything?
The only thing I can come close to saying, and I'm not going to, because Dylan has a new album out now, which is very good. But prior to that, he did like 4 albums of standards, and which, you know, for what it is fine. But like, Trump is in the White House, all this crazy stuff is going on, and Bob Dylan's putting out records of Sinatra songs. Like, it was like, and listen, he never claimed to be the spokesman. I understand that, but you kind of look to your icons, you know, when something is happening, you kind of go, I can't wait to see what Dylan has to say about this. And then he puts out Strangers in the Night. It's like, but then again, that's classic Dylan, right? He's going to do what you don't expect him to do. You know, so
it's almost like
I was disappointed. I was disappointed when those records came out. But I mean, they're fine on their own. You know, I mean, a lot of people sing the standards a lot better than he does. But but for his regular albums, the albums he put out before that, he did 1 record of standards, and then he did a 3 LP set of standards. So there's 4 albums of it. But
I didn't realize
the
that.
new one, I just heard a bunch of tracks. It's like, you know, back to the old stuff. Yeah, sound not much. I mean, I listen to what I like, so I've been disappointed with too much.
Yeah. I'll tell you, because I haven't listened to too much new stuff. So I'm just, you know, like whenever, like someone says, oh, you got to check this out.
What about you?
I would, like someone brought in the St. Vincent album, and they were making a deal about that. And I listened to it, and I was like, nah, it didn't grab me. Didn't grab me. Didn't do anything for me. But you never know. Sometimes you just got to be in the right mood.
And that, what's her name? Billie Eilish. You heard of her?
No.
Billie Eilish. She's really big right now, and you know, her songs are okay. You listen to you, but after like the 3rd song on the album, it's the same. It's the same as the first 2 or 3. The whole album, it's in one vein, you know. And everyone's touting her like she's the newest genius, and I'm like, not a lot going on here, you know. The one thing she does is good, but that's all she's doing, you know. So I always like, you know, variety. That's why I like the Black Crowes and Frank Zappa and Genesis, and you're gonna get different. One album will have a million different types of music on it. So I always like things that move around like that, you know.
The Black Crowes always let it flow. So if they had an album with a lot of singles, instead of holding back something and say, "We'll put that on the next record," they said, "I'll put it out like that," you know. And that's why they're still the Black Crowes. They're still kicking. I actually saw
Yeah,
that.
well,
I saw their first show in New York City at the World,
I know.
and Slash from Guns N' Roses came out, and they did a Rolling Stones song. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, that was a fun show. That was a good time. Wish I bought a shirt or something, but you know, now I could sell
Yeah,
a
well,
ton of money.
they've definitely well, they're a band that they've gone through a lot of changes. It's starting out as like a straight ahead rock and roll band, then kind of getting into the jam band thing, and their last couple albums have been basically Americana records. I think they got so high they think they're the band. And but so there's a lot of different areas. But when they play stuff from throughout their catalog. So you get a straight up rock and roll song next to a psychedelic song. Then they do an old time blues number. They really kind of run the gamut of American music. So
Yeah,
I for a while I had no interest in them whatsoever. I kind of just rediscovered them, and then they've really been going back and getting everything I can.
yeah, they're the kind of band that's good to do that with, because you know it's always going to be interesting what you find. You know, they even when they put out albums that were like, it was still interesting to listen to. You know, compared to a lot of other stuff, it was great compared to what else was coming out at that time. But you know, they always they had some quality behind them. That was something that was kind of nice. You know,
Yeah.
but
Well,
we
when they first came out, they were this, kind of Rolling Stones-ish blues band amongst a sea of hair metal.
yeah,
And then when they finally kind of get famous, the thing kind of turns to grunge, and now they're this like hippie band in the middle of the grunge movement. So wherever they were always a fish out of water, no matter what part of their career they were in,
true.
And then by the end of their career, when they're kind of like an Americana type band doing kind of roots music, hip hop is in the mainstream. So they're never, that first album was their only big success. After that, they've just been doing what they want to do.
True. That's true. We could talk for hours and hours and hours, but we're kind of coming to the end of the show here. We're going to have you back again. I know you're going to be on Mike's show too, Mike Downer. He's going to have you on talking Zappa. All things.
Whenever you're ready, baby.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah, that whole
Joey.
that whole back shelf, that's all the Zappa records.
Oh my God. You were delusional. Well, you know, unfortunately, Frank had a lot of stuff. That's for damn sure. A lot of stuff. Well, thank you so much, Joey, for coming on, and this is coming
Uh,
from Big Jim's Records.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. The show's coming from Big Jim's Records. We do try to do a show every week, and the store is located in Buchanan, which is right next to Peekskill. So if you know where Peekskill is, you know where we are. It's at 3199 Albany Post Road. We're open for curbside, and you know, for people could come in, but they have to have a mask. You have to stay 6 feet away from each other. You can come in and have a look around Wednesday through Sunday, 12 to 5. So that's my whorish little promo ad for the stuff. But check back for future shows, people, because we're gonna have some more fun, and we're gonna have more guests like Joey I. Joey I will be back again, and oh my God, we could just go on and on. We didn't talk about half the things I wanted to talk about, but it would be a 9-hour podcast by then. So thank you so much, Joey. Be well. And let's see
Peace
if I
and love. Peace and love. Peace and love.
all right. Be well, brother.